Welcome to a tale woven through the ages, a story of courage, mystery, and the delicate balance between light and shadow. The Eternal Siege is a captivating narrative that unfolds amidst the ancient walls of a besieged citadel, where unlikely heroes rise to face a necromancer's dark legacy. As you delve into this epic journey, allow the story to enrich your moments, whether you're embarking on everyday tasks or settling in for a time of leisure. Let each chapter transport you to a world where the unsung guard a secret that holds the fate of all. Enjoy the adventure at your pace, immersed in a story that's as enduring as the citadel itself. Bargains with the beyond, a choice that ends worlds. At the beginning of our perilous journey, I never fancied myself a hero. My tale doesn't start with a grand calling or some higher destiny, but rather in the dim recesses of a tavern where the downtrodden gather. There, amidst the clinking of mugs and hushed conversations, whispers reached my ears, rumors of the Unsung. The Unsung was a name barely invoked, formed by a group of unlikely champions, individuals plucked from the shadows of anonymity to undertake a task of utmost consequence. Each had a story marked by rejection or failure, but together they found purpose. I was one of them, though I wondered if luck or fate had truly guided me to that point. The tales said that the Necromancer, an ancient being cloaked in mystery, commanded an army of the dead soldiers who knew neither pain nor fear, surging against the unyielding walls of the citadel like waves against a stubborn cliff. For over a century, their siege had persisted, an unending barrage that defied logic and threatened to outlast the stones themselves. It was said that a greater evil slumbered beneath, a being so vile that the dead's eternal war was but a penance to keep it chained. Yet the Necromancer sought more than conquest. He sought to reach beneath the citadel where unspeakable power slept, power enough to reshape the world itself. In the corner of that tavern, a shadow of my former self, hope whispered into the depths of my heart. Then a figure approached, his eyes gleaming with a promise and a challenge. His name was Alaric, a man skilled in persuasion and subterfuge who acted on behalf of the citadel's desperate defenders. He spoke of a mission, whispered of a chance to strike at the heart of darkness, to tip the scales and end the eternal siege once and for all. His words lingered in the air, heavy with the weight of prophecy and doom alike. He told me I was to join the Unsung, to tread where many had fallen, to dance on the knife's edge between life and undeath. My companions would include the likes of Sarah, a rogue with a past layered in enigma, whose skills in the art of shadows were unsurpassed, and Halvar, a warrior bearing the scars of countless battles and whose heart burned with unrelenting resolve. Together we were to venture into the abyss, to cross veils that separated the living from the dead, and to stride into the lair of the Necromancer himself. Reluctantly, I accepted. Perhaps it was the drink that emboldened me, perhaps the desperation etched into Alaric's eyes, but in truth, it was the notion that against the tapestry of fate, even the smallest thread could have significance. As the weeks turned into days, our numbers grew. We were joined by Fionn, a mage with knowledge ancient and arcane, her azure robe swirling like the ocean tide, and Rhina, whose mastery of healing magic breathed life into despondency. Each carried burdens of their own, secrets they kept guarded until trust would allow otherwise. We set forth when the moon was veiled by clouds under the cover of nightfall. The path was treacherous, strewn with the echoes of those who had ventured before us, their bones a grim reminder of the cost of courage. We crept through the valleys veiled in shadow, the cold air biting at our skin, our hearts pounding a chorus of doubt and bravery. Ahead loomed the Necromancer's stronghold, a specter in the distance. If we were to succeed, we had to step into the reality of nightmares, to find within ourselves the strength to face the whispers of the Unsung, and the hope that at the end of it all, our gamble would not be for naught. We were the last vestiges of a desperate defense, and our path demanded the kind of resolve I had only just begun to comprehend. The journey towards the Necromancer's stronghold was fraught with peril and uncertainty. Each step took us further from the realm of the living and deeper into the plane where shadows danced without light. Sarah led us through the winding trails, her instincts and knowledge of stealth our guide. She was a specter herself, at once present and intangible, slipping through the cracks of awareness where danger lurked unseen. The landscape was a haunting vista of gray, where the air itself seemed to whisper forgotten anguish into the folds of our minds. It weighed heavily on my spirit, as if the echoes of the dead sought communion with the living through sorrow. Halvar marched with unwavering purpose, his presence a beacon against the desolation, yet even he was not immune to the pervasive chill of unyielding grief that blanketed the land. Fionn walked at the rear, her staff tingling with the power she wielded, a constant hum that resonated with the stillness around us. Her magic was our bulwark, a thread that knitted our courage with the arcane strands of destiny. And Reyna, ever vigilant, soothed our fears with gentle words and healing warmth, her touch a reminder of what we fought for: life, light, and all the fragile beauty therein. As we drew closer, the stronghold seemed to rise from the horizon, its silhouette etched against a grim sky. It was both fortress and prison, and within its shadowed halls lay the heart of our mission: the Necromancer, the orchestrator of death, the keeper of secrets older than the stones that surrounded us. His power was palpable, a force that seeped into the marrow of the earth, twisting it into a garden of despair. The journey across the threshold of this dark domain required a bravery I hadn't known was within me. It felt as if we were stepping across a boundary that held the living from the dead, a veil that had thinly worn by centuries of ritual and decay. Yet we pressed forward, our unity an unspoken oath against the clamor of uncertainty. Inside, the air was thick with the stench of necromancy, a concoction of decay and malevolence that curled around us like serpents. We navigated through corridors lined with the remnants of forgotten ages, artifacts that bore witness to a time before the siege. Shadows flitted at the edge of our vision, the unrestful murmurings of souls ensnared in the necromancer's web, their cries woven into the rhythmic pulse of sorcery that thrummed beneath the stone floors. It was in this labyrinthine fortress that our mettle would be tested. Here, where the echoes of the dead found their voice, and the heart of darkness called out its siren song. Apathy or hesitation here meant death or worse, a binding to the necromancer's will. As we delved deeper, Sarah's keen eyes caught the unseen, marking the hidden sigils and traps that decorated our path. Halvar's strength disarmed the constructs that guarded the inner sanctum, while Fionn's arcane might clashed with the dark enchantments that sought to ensnare our souls. Reyna patched our wounds, be they of body or spirit, her gentle incantations a balm against the relentless tide of despair that threatened to unravel us. We were close now. The stronghold's very walls seemed to pulse with foreboding as we approached the chamber where the necromancer conducted his grim rites. Here at last was the crucible of fate, the moment where knowledge gleaned finally threatened to shatter the narrow precipice upon which hope teetered. For it was here that we uncovered the truth entwined with our quest, that to strike down the necromancer was to risk the world's undoing. Within that chamber, the air crackled with the raw energy of eldritch forces. It was there that we glimpsed the true nature of what lay trapped under the citadel, a being so nefarious that even death itself conspired to keep it bound. In those moments of revelation, destiny's hand led me to a choice that would redefine the course of my life, and the lives intertwined with a choice that demanded the sacrifice of salvation, a wager that balanced on the edge of annihilation. Standing within the heart of darkness, I could feel the immense power radiating from the necromancer, like heat from a roaring fire. He stood at the center of the chamber, robed in shadows, his form shifting and indistinct as if the fabric of reality itself recoiled from his presence. All around him, ashen figures moved in silent agony, the remnants of souls bound to his will, their eyes pleading for respite or release. It was then that the atmosphere shifted, and a voice resonated through the very bones of the citadel, a voice that was both ancient and newly born, reverberating with the authority of one who had gazed into the abyss and had been changed by it. The necromancer's lips moved, but his words seemed to originate from the depths of the earth, laden with the weight of 1,000 dying breaths. "You have come, then, to destroy what you cannot possibly understand," he intoned, his gaze sweeping over us, measuring, assessing. "The eternal struggle between life and death is not yours to unravel." Halvar stepped forward, blade gleaming even in the dimness. "You've waged war on the living long enough," he he said, the echo of battles fought giving strength to his words. We're here to end this siege, to free the world from your tyranny. The necromancer chuckled, a sound devoid of humor. Freedom? You think shackling the threads of fate will bring freedom? You, who tread upon this sacred ground, know not the price of the light you so fervently cherish. Sarah's eyes were like twin daggers, sharp and unyielding. And what price do you demand, vile one? What cost but the lives of innocents to feed your unholy hunger? Fionn raised her staff, the runes along its length glowing with power. Enough of your words. Show us your purpose or perish in obscurity. For a moment, time seemed to stretch, an eternity captured within a single breath. Then, with a sweep of his hand, the necromancer summoned forth the essence of his dark domain, channeling it into tendrils of night that lashed out at us with malevolent intent. Our fragile alliance burst into action. Halvar's sword met the necromantic webs, each swing a burst of radiant defiance against the overwhelming gloom. Fionn conjured a storm of brilliant energy, opposing the darkness with beams of light that cast stark shadows across the chamber. Reyna was the linchpin, a harbinger of life amidst the tide of death that threatened to consume us. Her enchantments formed a shield around us, a luminous barrier that warded off the necromancer's relentless onslaught. She sang the words of ancients past, each note a salve for our fears, each syllable a bastion against despair. And Sarah, darting through the pandemonium with the grace of a shadow dancer, struck where our adversary least expected, her daggers cutting the air with precision. She moved as if born of the darkness herself, yet her blows were true. But even as we fought with everything we were, we couldn't ignore the truth that lay beneath. The land quivered with an energy that threatened to breach its confines, the essence of the slumbering evil pulsing in time with our shared heartbeats. We wielded blades and spells, yet understood that neither would be enough to secure salvation. The citadel's foundations groaned, the very stone protesting the imposition of our mortal struggle against such ancient power. The realization struck us with the force of prophecy fulfilled. To destroy the man before us would be to open the gates to a deeper darkness, one that his grim guardianship held at bay. The necromancer's macabre dance with death and despair had maintained the delicate balance, a balance we now teetered upon with reckless abandon. In the midst of chaos, Alaric's voice cut through the din, echoing from the spellbound relics. This is the decision point, one that echoes through the ages. Will you embrace the cost of peace, or risk the storm of all-consuming chaos? I realized then that this was the bedrock of all journeys, an ultimate choice that reframed friend and foe alike, and the path forward was mine to declare. I made the only choice I could, feeling the weight of worlds upon me as I faced the decision that would redefine the very nature of our quest. In that defining moment, clarity pierced the tumult like a shard of sunlight breaching storm clouds. As my companions fought fiercely, their determination fueling the fires of hope, I knew that the weapon we needed was not steel or spell, but understanding. I stepped forward, my voice rising above the cacophony, emboldened by the urgency of truth. Enough! We do not seek to destroy what is bound, but to understand its purpose. My words echoed through the chamber, halting the dance of death around us. The necromancer's gaze fixed upon me, eyes like twin pits of endless night, and I felt the weight of centuries in his stare. His form wavered, caught between malice and something akin to curiosity. "You presume to grasp the meaning of this vigil?" he queried, his voice a serpentine whisper. My heart thundered in my chest, every instinct urging caution as I spoke. Your siege is not simply a lust for power, it's a barrier against what's below. But why must it be a war against the living as well? The necromancer seemed to consider my words, the shadows around him curling and uncurling like serpents called to heal. Slowly, he lowered his hands, the tendrils of darkness retreating, and with them the din of battle faded into a tenuous quiet. "You assume righteousness," he murmured, his voice carrying a note of war-weary wisdom. "But beneath this facade lies a protector of boundaries. The siege is both defense and defiance, defiance of a world that would soar too close to a sun of ambition, melting the waxen wings of balance." Reyna approached cautiously, her healer's wisdom shining through her trepidation. "And the souls of those you've taken?" she asked softly, her voice touching the center of the conflict like a balm. The necromancer's expression shifted, remorse mingling with authority. They are the sentinels of this plight, trapped as I am, guardians of the secret buried within their sacrifice. Each pulse of this prison's heart calls to them, reminding them of their purpose. Halvar lowered his sword, wariness etched into the lines of his face, and Fionn let her arcane light dim, the tension easing from her posture. Sarah, always the skeptic, kept her blades ready, yet a flicker of doubt softened the hard line of her jaw. We stood there, an unspoken understanding binding us all, as if the core of the abyss had offered us a glimpse into its veiled knowledge. The Necromancer watched, his presence a line drawn between ancient responsibility and the urgency of our own need. "Then let us guard this secret together," I offered, the words tasting strange yet right upon my tongue. Balance can only be maintained by those who see the tapestry woven from both light and shadow. A silence stretched as time held its breath. The Necromancer's form seemed to shift once more, a flicker of humanity amidst his ethereal guise. "You would walk this path knowing the burden it bears?" "Yes," I answered, feeling the weight of choice settle like a mantle upon my shoulders, a burden I would carry alongside my companions, each of us willing to temper the balance between existence and oblivion. The chamber itself seemed to exhale, as if acknowledging a truce in our uneasy alliance. No longer opposing forces, but custodians bound to a singular purpose. We understood what had initially driven us together: hope, and the belief that even the darkest tales could become entwined with salvation. And so we departed that place, leaving the Necromancer ensconced within his fortress of eternal shadows, not as a conqueror vanquished, but as a wary guardian, a necessary darkness keeping watch over the confines of unspeakable evil below. The siege would persist, but now we knew. Even darkness has its purpose, even in the paradox of an eternal resistance. Our path forward would be fraught with the whispers of what we had learned, the journey just beginning as we navigated the precipice between life and death, light and shadow, understanding that the eternal siege was not only a stalemate, but also a necessity woven into the very fabric of our world. As we retreated from the stronghold, the burden of our choice settled heavily on our shoulders. Yet there was also a sense of clarity, as if we had glimpsed a greater truth that few dared acknowledge. The Necromancer's domain faded into the distance behind us, its ominous presence a constant reminder of the delicate balance we were now sworn to uphold. Our journey from the Necromancer's stronghold was marked by silence, each of us lost in contemplation, grappling with the revelations we now bore. The landscape that had once felt so oppressive and foreboding now seemed different, as if the shadows themselves had softened into allies, the unseen watchers who knew that we were now on their side, or perhaps they were the ones keeping their eternal vigil. In the days that followed, we returned to the citadel, our steps guided by the purpose we had claimed. Alaric awaited us, the keen sheen of worry etched into his features. Upon seeing us, a mixture of relief and expectation crossed his face. "Have you succeeded? Is the nightmare ended?" he inquired, his voice tight with anticipation. I met his gaze squarely, feeling the import of what I was about to reveal. "We've come to understand the truth behind the siege," I began, the words a culmination of our shared experience. "The Necromancer is not the foe we believed him to be. He is the keeper of an ancient boundary, one that, if tampered with, could unleash a terror beyond imagining." Alaric's expression shifted, confusion battling with understanding as he listened. "But what of the siege? The doom that has hung over us like a specter?" "The siege is part of the prison's web," Fionn explained, her voice clear and resonant with certainty. "A necessary evil to ensure the world above remains safe from the horrors buried beneath." Halvar stepped forward, his resolve reflecting our collective commitment. "It is not victory or defeat that marks our path, but vigilance and the responsibility to maintain the balance." Raina nodded, her healing presence soothing even the most frayed of doubts. "We must live with this knowledge and protect the secret, even if it means becoming part of a cycle we do not fully control." Sarah, always the cynic, offered a wry smile that conveyed reluctant acceptance. "Looks like we're in the business of impossible missions, doesn't it?" Our words settled like leaves on still water, their ripples touching the edges of understanding. This was no simple ending, but a beginning, the first step in a larger story that stretched beyond our lifetimes, connected by the invisible threads of duty. In the weeks that followed, our tale became one of guardianship. We shared our truth with those who needed to know, spun stories that became half warnings, half legends. The Unsung grew not in number, but in resolve, each member a sentinel against the encroaching tide of darkness. Together we forged a new path, one where the light would forever cherish its dance with shadows, where the eternal siege would be remembered not as a plight, but as a testament to the strength of human spirit and the necessity of the unseen battles fought on behalf of a world that blindly continued its existence above. And I, a simple wanderer among giants, found my story interwoven with their legend, whispered amongst kindred souls who understood that the heart of darkness was not to be banished, but balanced and watched over, for within its depths lay the key to preserving the harmony of the realms. The years passed, and with them, stories of the eternal siege were exchanged beside fires and beneath the star-stales of a citadel, a necromancer, and the ragtag band of outcasts who found within their journey an enduring truth. We remained the unsung, keepers of unseen worlds, bearing the torch of hope and guardianship as we stood watch over the veiled borders between light and shadow. As the years unfurled, our clandestine mission turned into a tapestry of history. Time is a river, flowing inexorably onward, yet in its current, the memory of what transpired lingered like stones beneath the surface, altering the course of events and leaving subtle ripples in its wake. Though the citadel remained under siege, its towering presence became a symbol not of dread, but of endurance. From the walls, lookouts peered into the horizon with an understanding that had not been there before, their eyes searching not just for threats, but for glimpses of allies hidden in the expanse of shadows. Our small troop, once mere outcasts, grew into a covert league of watchers, maintaining the careful equilibrium we had vowed to uphold. Gathering in secret, away from prying eyes and curious ears, we became adept at weaving new narratives to camouflage the truth. What began as whispered rumors evolved into tales of heroic deeds and tragic sacrifices, the kind that inspired courage even in the face of unthinkable odds. Each story carried a fraction of reality, enough to emblazon the hearts of those who listened with the fire of resilience while guarding the core of our charge. I often thought back to the day we had emerged from the Necromancer's fortress, an unlikely band with a mission not born from legend but necessity. Our journeys together, through turmoil and revelation, had cemented bonds stronger than steel. We were more than comrades forged in battle. We were family, each of us, an anchor and a compass for the rest, guiding one another through the labyrinthine challenges that lay ahead. Maintaining the balance was a task that required vigilance, wisdom, and above all, humility. Each step we took was measured, mindful of the ripples it might create, whether aligning powers or curbing their influence. It was an unending dance, a movement between action and reflection as we moved unseen in the roles fate had carved out for us. Alaric became our voice among the defenders of the citadel, his persuasive tongue and keen intellect a boon that bridged the realms of truth and myth. His stories rallied warriors and soothed the naysayers, establishing a fable wherein the darkness was not to be vanquished but embraced with knowing restraint. His legacy grew, as did Fion's, whose arcane studies kept her absorbed in the esoteric arts that fortified the boundaries we had sworn to protect. Reyna's touch healed more than just wounds. It bound spirits and bodies in a tapestry of unseen bonds that resonated with hope. Her work extended beyond our small circle, her gifts mending the gravest divides that flickered in the hearts of those who faced the specter of battle. Halvar, ever the stalwart warrior, took upon himself the mantle of shield and sword. His presence beside the citadel became synonymous with steadfast courage and unwavering strength, a living embodiment of a sentinel stalwart against the night. With his guidance, outcasts and soldiers united under a single purpose, standing upon the threshold with weapons drawn not against life, but in preservation of it. Sarah, our shadow among shadows, thrived in the murmur of hidden paths, her past secrets a defense and guide. Under her tutelage, those who wished to walk the unseen trails learned the craft, becoming adept in the arts of subtlety and perception, their lives pledged to a silent vigil across realms often forgot or ignored. And I, the unlikely bard of this storied troop, found my role as keeper of our journey, chronicling not just what was, but what could be in the grand scheme that unfolded before us. A record and a reminder, a guide and a caution, our legacy penned within the scroll of ages to come. Years turned to decades, and while many of us succumbed to time's immutable passage, the essence of our mission endured, passed on to those who came after. The eternal siege continued, yet with it the light of hope blazed ever brighter, not an end but a harmony, where life above and the shadows below shared an existence on the precipice of potential. And should you hear the stories sung by firelight of outcasts who sought truth, of a necromancer not an enemy but a keeper of time, know that what you hear is the pulse of a world turning in its sleep, kept safe by the unsung who dwell in the space between echoes. Under the veil of stars, where stories mingled with twilight whispers, the unsung's legacy endured, evolving through new stewards who carried the call of ancient duty. Generations passed like pages turning, yet the essence of the eternal siege wove its enduring tale through the fabric of history, a gentle reminder of what lay beneath our feet. With the passage of time, I became more observer than participant, a ghost bearing witness to the evolving narrative. New alliances formed as whispers of our purpose spread through secret channels, reaching the ears of those unafraid to walk the intricate shadow paths. They took up the mantle with an eagerness born of necessity, as if answering a call that had resonated across the ages. The citadel itself transformed into a beacon of coexistence, a rare place where light intermingled with the respectable darkness we had learned to respect. It stood fortified, not from fear, but as a symbol of human tenacity, a bastion where the living and those who tread less tangible paths found common purpose. The once unyielding walls became a space of learning and insight, an academy of sorts, for those chosen to protect the precarious balance we had so steadfastly guarded. Wisdom, no longer the sole purview of grizzled veterans, was shared freely among the young and the old, who embraced the teachings of their predecessors. Through song and tale, through art and shared scripture, the remarkable story endured not as a secret hoarded, but as a wisdom passed from hand to hand and age to age, a monumental account of the battle fought not in the realm of men, but within the core of the earth itself, where nameless shadows hid. Each generation crafted its own legends, stories, exploring the complexities of light and shadow, each reinforcing the many lessons learned in the furnace of eternity. Teachers recounted the days when my companions and I stood against unknowable odds, imparting strength and humility alongside bravery. The name Unsung became synonymous with unity, with the silent heroes, the watchers upon the world's boundary, ensuring the symbiosis of life and shadow. For we learned that darkness was not to be feared, but to be woven into the very essence of who and what we were, a counterbalance to illuminate the strength of light, a contrast that defined reality. One day, as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, I stood upon the walls of the citadel that had stood defiant for centuries. I felt the soft wind that carried whispers of times long past across the stone, felt the echo of lives entwined in their quest, each a single note in the symphony of salvation. I was content, for I knew that our story or choices in our deeds had become eternal, resounding through ages, cascading as softly as rain upon the soul. I, the unlikely bard among indomitable friends, had become part of something much greater and more profound than I could have ever envisioned. As the night unfurled its cloak of stars, I closed my eyes, listening to the song of life, the harmony of struggle and triumph, of shadow and light. I knew well that this song would continue. Singers changed, yet the melody ever present, as lasting as the eternal siege itself, a testament to what it means to strive, to endure, and to protect. For in the end, between the echoes and the silence, the unsung would always be there, unseen guardians of a story woven into the heart of the world, steering it toward the dawn, ensuring that we lived not just in the embrace of light or shadow alone, but in the flourishing dance of both. As the years stretched into centuries, my presence upon this earthly plane began to fade, yet I knew the story lived on, inscribed into the very stones of the citadel and in the hearts of those who followed the path we had blazed. The unsung had become more than just a name. It was a lineage, a rite of passage for those who dared delve beyond the surface of understood reality. The citadel's walls, once a theater for constant battle, transformed into a place where tales of courage and sacrifice were etched and shared. In its courtyards and chambers, new recruits gathered, each bringing fresh perspectives and untested resolve. They learned under the tutelage of seasoned mentors who bore the wisdom of ages past, now distilled into gestures of guidance and words of encouragement. To walk with the unsung was to embrace the complexity of the world's truths, to see past the superficial dichotomy of good and evil, and to understand the necessary balance that maintained all. The sacred dance of light and shadow was not unlike the steps of an intricate melody, each note dependent on the one that preceded it, weaving harmony in an otherwise disorderly expanse. As the keeper of tales, my essence became one with the stories I had chronicled, my spirit soaring amongst the constellations of memory and legend. I was content to reside within the whispers of history, glimpses captured in the reflection of those who carried the story onward. Sometimes, on nights when the moon gleamed like a pearl in the suffused sky, I could feel my loved companions, the rogues and warriors, healers and mages, those who had shared the crucible of destiny with me, as if they too were woven into each tale, lighting the way for new sagas that unfurled from the foundation we had laid. In quiet moments, the citadel itself seemed to breathe, its stones imbued with life from eons of memory shared in muted reverence. Through each new generation, the teachings expanded, branches extending into myriad paths. Some stewards of the unsung dedicated their lives to studying the arcane intricacies of the Necromancer's vigil, others to bridging the worlds of light and shadow through diplomacy and understanding. Even as time's inexorable flow carved new landscapes and changed faces, the core mission stayed unerringly true. It was an eternal vigil, watching over the sacred secret, ensuring that the darkness buried below never saw the light of day, not as an imprisonment, but as a testament to the delicate balance we guarded. The citadel stood as a monument to this endlessly evolving endeavor, its silhouette a beacon for those who sought to venture along the path of the unsung. And so, through countless seasons and the gentle progression of life into legend, the tale endured. I knew, even as my spirit joined the echoes across time, that history would continue to be written not just in the pages of tomes or the whispers of bards, but in the very acts of those who embraced the eternal vigilance and compassion it inspired. The unsung brothers and sisters of a legacy unparalleled persisted as custodians of a world forever turning, ever poised at the edge of twilight, ready to welcome each dawn with the fortitude and grace born from harmony of past and present, shadow and light, silence and song.